So the most common question I'm getting right now is what Ford Thunderbird years were the most popular, which generations were the most popular, and which V8 engines came with each generation and which ones are the ones to look out for. So when the first generation came out, it was only a two-seater and it had the first Y block, which was the 292, and they even eventually offered a 314 Y block. But on the second generation, that is where they switched to the two rows of seats and they started with the FE engines. Now the FE engines are going to be your bread and butter engines for the Thunderbird until the late 60s. So in the second generation, they did the 352 FE engine, which is called the Ford Edsel engine, and then they later offered a 430 MEL big block. Now, the third and fourth generations were largely focused on the 390 FE engines, and they eventually offered a tri-power setup, which was three two-barrel Holley carburetors, and then they eventually came out with a 428 that was an FE engine. So still the FE engines were the dominant engines for the second, third, and fourth generation. Now, the most popular generation, like you see here, that is the seventh generation. So if you are looking for, let's say, a deal, this is the biggest trend in the next 3 to 5 years, I would say, is because they sold almost 1 million Thunderbirds between 1977 and 1979, you can probably get a pretty sweet deal. Now, the advantage of the seventh generation is these are a lot of trailer pickup for sale from what I'm seeing online. So when you're looking at, let's say, a ninth generation, like you're seeing these turbo coupes here, there's probably people that just have these sitting in a barn or a garage, or they inherited them. And if you have the ability to pay cash, there is a big decline in people who can actually physically buy these cars in cash. So you could actually get a pretty sweet deal. For example, like if you're a cash buyer and someone's listing a car for $13,000 and you go and say, hey, I got $7,000, but I'll do it right now. Some people, that's hard to turn down. So you can try that technique. I sold cars for 20 years and cash buyers do, the phrase is called cash is king. If you have the ability to go do something like that. Otherwise, there's plenty of classic car dealerships like the one I do videos at that does financing. Now, another one to look out for are the late 9th and 10th generations. They also made those models for almost 20 years, and they sold about 2 million combined of the 9th and 10th generation. The remake, when they did the 11th one, I don't really count that one as part of the generations, but the 7th generation, like you see right there, that is really, if I was going to only recommend one, would be 77, 78, 79, anything with the 302. They have the 351M, and then of course they did the Cleveland 400, which if you don't know, the bore and the stroke were both 4 inches. That was the big deal, was the 400